Hello, everyone. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be doing a live reading, and today we're here with Toria, and I'm really excited. We're going to kind of look at a couple of different things. We're going to do some card pulls and also just invite forward mediumship, any energies or spirits that want to connect and share any information. And then we're going to look at your Akashic Records. So the Akashic Records essentially is like, I would explain it as like a blueprint of information about you. So it's Toria, but it's also you in all iterations of self. So yeah, that takes in mind the idea of like past lives, parallel lives. So there's all these other versions of you that are connected to your soul, your eternal spirit. So when we look into the Akashic Records, basically there's all sorts of information in there. There's stuff about this lifetime, other lifetimes, stuff about your family, ancestors, spirit guides. It's very endless. It's essentially just like an energetic space for us to connect through. So when we go in there, we can have some specific questions, or we can just kind of see like what wants to come up. So before we get started, I'll just have you introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Toria, and I'm really excited for this experience.
Amazing. And so you've done readings before, you've gotten a reading before?
Yes. And mainly it was either to just kind of see like if there were ancestors on the other side that wanted to come forward, and some came forward with, awesome information I needed at the time. And yeah, that's pretty much been my experience, always wanting to know like what my ancestors have for me.
Amazing. And so do you have like a spiritual kind of like a routine or practice that you do?
I've definitely used I think meditation to definitely kind of curb down anxiety, and also to kind of manage mental health in my day to day. And it can be um, just definitely some grounding exercises, maybe to kind of kick off the day, or even especially before like winding down before I go to sleep. So
Amazing. Well, thank you for doing this. I'm really excited to take a look and see what wants to come up. And where are you located?
I am located in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, so you're on the other side from me. I'm in California.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Awesome. So basically what I'm going to do is I use like a little opening prayer and intention to just open up the energy space. And then from there, we're going to start by kind of, we're going to pull a few cards for you. Then we're going to kind of scan and look through the body, see what's going on. And then if any spirits or energies want to come forward, we'll go from there. Do you have
Awesome.
any questions before we get started?
Nope, no questions.
Awesome. So this, I'm going to pull a few cards from this. This is called the Vessel deck. It's like an oracle deck. So this has just like different words on here. I'm just asking like just an intention for our reading, like what is something that we can kind of focus on. So I'm just going to shuffle them.
Okay, nice.
This is one of my favorite decks. And it's very simple. There it goes. It just fell. That's the card for us. Okay. So we pulled two cards. So these are going to be kind of like our anchors for the reading. So we have, these might be backwards for you.
Okay.
But you can get the idea of the image.
Birth,
so we have
okay.
the birth card and we have the boundaries card. So we'll take a look at those in a minute. But first, we're just going to open up the space. And for those listening, I just had Toria give me their full name and birthday, and we use that to open up the space. So if you want, you can bring your hands to your heart or to your stomach, and I'll just have you close your eyes for just a moment. We just ask to bring forward any energies or spirits connected to Toria that want to send us any messages or that are here for support and healing. We ask to be surrounded in a circle of white light for protection, strength, and knowledge. And may we be joined in the intention to expand our souls. May Victoria Cecilia Munoz be joined in the intention to expand her soul, to remember who she is and why she is here, as it is written in the Akashic Records. We ask that the record keepers at the highest divine level to allow me grace to open and read the records of Victoria Cecilia Munoz for this purpose. Only the light is welcome here. May we be open to receive the most helpful, sacred, and empowering guidance. And so it is. And the records are now open. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. But basically, my intention is we bring our energy up so that when we're in this space, we're being given relevant information. So we shall begin. So the first thing that came forward when I was like connecting to your energy, so I have a few things to share and then we'll kind of dive into them. But the couple of things that came forward, like when I connected to you before we got on the call, just like tuning into your energy, there was definitely a lot of ancestor spirits. I would say both sides of the family, but it feels more like a maternal, like a great grandmother type of figure surrounding you. She feels very, it's like almost like a warm, tingly feeling. Like it feels not like someone's giving you a hug from behind, but like if someone hugs you and they like kind of squish your face a little bit. That was the sensation that I was receiving. And there was another spirit too that came forward that was almost, to me, they were like, felt kind of sly, like they were kind of like hiding a little bit. And I was like, what's going on with that? At first I was like, maybe they were like checking me out, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Trying to look at her energy, like what's going
That's
on?
funny.
It felt like it was weird. They gave me an image at first of like a fox, like in a hat, like it was like a cartoon kind of thing. And I was like, that's interesting. And then when I got closer to them, they looked more like human, like an older man, a masculine figure, a man figure. But he felt like he was kind of not like a trickster energy, but just kind of like, I don't know, the word sly just keeps coming up, like kind of like not trying to trick me or tease me, but just trying to kind of like see what he could get away with is what it felt like to me. Does that make sense to you at all?
So the great grandmother, I lost my great grandparents before I was born. But I'm thinking great grandmother. And then the other is interesting, and I say interesting because about a year or so ago, actually a little bit more, it was like last August, I had an experience, and or just like weird things were happening. Long story short, my boyfriend's dad passed away unexpectedly last August. and uh he's randomly come through, which is in like another reading I had, where it was kind of jarring because it was like, wait, you're kind of connected, but you're not connected to me. I'm not sure if that could be it, but
Yeah, well, we can totally kind of see if anything kind of reveals itself as we
yeah.
go into it. But that was like the kind of like when I looked at you, it felt like surrounding you was like a orange aura color, like
Okay.
warm. It felt if you ever like sit under those heat lamps like outside at a restaurant, it
Mm-hmm.
felt like that, like a blanket of heat. I don't know
Yeah,
how to
you know, I
explain it
know
other than
exactly what
that.
you're talking about.
Like
I love those
surrounding you.
during winter. It's like, oh gosh, I want to be as close to that as possible.
Yeah, it was like it felt like warm, but it was like thick. I don't know.
Mhm.
Other than that, like surrounding your whole body. And then I felt the ancestors felt like they were right next to you. And then this guy felt like he was kind of like to the left a little bit,
Okay,
but like not directly next to you, but more from behind.
gotcha.
Um, and then I did also, they gave me a vision as well of like a bird feeder, but like specifically this wooden looking one, and the birds kept coming to it and like taking their little pellets and going like looking at you and
Interesting.
then leaving. So it could be sometimes birds symbolize like freedom
Hmm.
and like being able to expand your wings and expand yourself more. And then sometimes it can also be like a visitation of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
So that sometimes can be like, a loved one, but also can be our spirit guides. And for you, it felt like you had like there's a spirit guide connected to you. And I'm not sure if I mean, they're already there. So you probably have an awareness of them, but I don't know if you like know their name or something like that.
Hmm.
But it felt like a very tall, not like, I would say beefy, how I would
Uh-huh.
explain it, like a muscular type of figure, but very tall. And they were like made of ice. It was very interesting. And I was like, I wonder like what is their purpose? Like what is one, why are they showing up? But also like what are they, how are they showing up in your life, like to assist you or whatever? Because our spirit guides, they all have different tasks. Like sometimes it can be, oh, they're protecting you or whatever, or just like teaching you stuff.
Mm.
um so I asked like, can you give me like some information like about
Hmm.
what would this be helpful for, like this connection? And they were like, they said a couple of things. So the first was like, they explained their connection to you as being like a lifetime of connection. So sometimes spirit guides will come in with us when we're born, and then sometimes it's like, oh, I'm trying to learn how to be a rocket scientist, so you'll get this like special
Yeah,
rocket scientist
that makes
spirit guide or
sense.
whatever. So I was like, oh, okay. They said they were with you through your life, um but they said as a child it was more like I don't know how to explain this. I'm trying to they're showing me images, so I want it to come through in words so that you
Hmm.
can understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Um, so give me a second. Yeah, so they said it was more of comes back to this boundary stuff, like giving you like a safety net is how they're explaining it to me, like sending forward like a frequency, which is basically just a feeling and
Mhm.
emotion, to like it feels like a calming effect of allowing you to feel protected and safe, like in like scary moments. They said as a child that was more of like what their role was, but as you're starting to, be a full adult, like they they don't view that as much of a necessary thing to do to like shield you. And so now they're more like how they explain, they just go like this, opening up. They say assisting you in opening up the boundaries, because they say, like steel walls, like strong boundaries were created to keep you safe. And that can be emotionally or also just physically in our life, um, mentally, spiritually, to keep you like not in a state of fear or like confusion. But they say now it's not as necessary to have those like super thick steel, like impenetrable boundaries. So this guide is saying that they've been helping you the last like year or so, trying to open up like specifically throat and ears, like listening and speaking, like, excuse me, when you are in a state of discomfort. So being able to, okay, maybe say that out loud to someone, like, I'm not in a good mood right now or whatever, but also internally, like releasing self-judgment of like, maybe right now I feel this way, and just acknowledging that instead of like trying to push through things. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, I just have to check every
Oh, it
once in a
makes a lot of
while.
sense. It was like, no, I was like taking it all in. I'm like, oh wow.
And you'll have this recording too, so you can listen
Yeah,
back.
yeah. No, like definitely, yeah, definitely taking it all in. Yeah, I've had to um push through things in life, and sometimes I feel like maybe I was part of my own suffering, if that makes sense.
I totally understand what you mean. I think, there are external circumstances, but sometimes they explain to me, like when we get into a state of like protecting ourselves, shielding ourselves, like that becomes comfortable at one point where you're like, okay, now I'm in my little bubble.
Mm,
And so once you start to move out of the bubble, that can feel like dislodging a little bit.
yeah, that makes sense.
So he's like saying, he's like showing like, it's not in a scary, gruesome way, but like
Mhm.
opening up your throat
Okay, that
and
makes
the
sense.
ears as well. So the ears is connected to our throat, like the ability to listen and the ability to speak. But it feels, like I said before, like also like an internal thing of like, I feel this way, let me like be okay with that inside myself, instead of having to change things like right away.
That that makes sense. I'm the type of person I don't want to like word throw up, so I will internalize a lot and then I'll speak when I'm ready.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he looks like um I don't know how else to explain it, but like made of ice. Like
Kind
a
of.
ice sculpture. But
That's
I don't know, have you ever seen
interesting.
that show Adventure Time? It's like
Yes.
a cartoon. It reminds me of like the ice guy, the ice king, but not like a mean guy, but
Oh,
like
okay. That's interesting.
frozen
That's
feeling.
interesting. I don't know
I've never
who.
seen Frozen the movie, but maybe there's like that kind of vibe is what I'm getting, like this ice, people who live in the ice. I don't know. I don't know
No,
how
that's
to
interesting.
explain it.
I'm just trying to figure out who that could be, or if I've ever, I don't know, come across that person.
Yeah, and the way they're showing me, the way that they show up is like through frequencies, so through feelings and emotions. So you might get like it could be a physical sensation, but they're showing me more of like an emotional sensation, like you feel not sadness, but like when you cry and you're like, oh, all of a sudden, like, why am I crying? Like, like
That's
overwhelmed with
that's interesting.
emotion, but
That's
in a
interesting.
positive way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm one that when when I cry, there's not like a subdued version of crying. It's like it's like 0 or 100. And that's interesting that you said that, because I found myself crying, I think it was like a week and a half or so ago. And thinking, oh man, I feel so alone right now in this moment. But then also hearing in my head, like, you're not alone. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
Yeah. And sometimes like they explain it to me like they could come through feelings. Well, it feels like a he, I don't know why.
Okay.
But like um but yeah, it's also like that telepathic type of thing of like I just like thought of that randomly kind of feeling, rather than it doesn't feel like he is giving you like a dialogue type of
Mm-hmm.
conversation, more just like supporting from not afar, but like not directly speaking.
Got it.
That
No,
makes
that makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah, so he was like, it just feels like he is like behind, he's just behind you, but like a little bit from a distance is how I see him. um yeah, and then they give, I don't know, random, but they give me like this vision, and I think this is more like a metaphor, but like of you on a little canoe like kayak type of boat, like in the middle of a like a dark lake is what they're showing me, and they're showing me like canoeing in circles. And then yeah, I just see you going in circles. And it's interesting because there is like a path. There is a path for you to go, but you're just going in the circle.
You
So
cut
he,
out all I came
oh,
back to was you're
oh,
going around in circles. I'm like, okay.
so they gave me so we'll start that again. So they gave me a vision, like an image
Mhm.
in my mind, um, of you. And I was saying that this feels more like a metaphor than like you're literally
Mhm.
like on a in this
Right.
lake or whatever. You could, maybe you go to the lake a lot, but this feels more like a metaphor for me. But they show you in this dark lake on in like a little boat, like a canoe type of thing. And there's it's like a pathway for you to go that takes you back to the shore, but they show you just kind of like turning around turning around once you get there and like going back. So to me that feels like it could be like you were saying before, sometimes it can be your own self like creating these circular like feelings or situations that are similar to other situations you've already experienced. But it also feels like it doesn't feel like in this moment, because I don't want to say this is everything in your life, but in this moment, it feels like there is an option to leave the path. Like to not go in that circle, to go a different direction. But it feels like there's a little fear there of like, if I don't just do the same thing that I've done before, what is on the other side? Like being a little bit, it's like a in between phase of, I don't want to do this over and over again, but if I go this way, like what's going to happen after? Like it feels like you are ready, like you can and you want to change or make that leap, or like, move off the path. But that doesn't feel like the scary part to me for you. Like it doesn't feel like you're afraid to do something weird or wild, like make a choice. Like that doesn't feel like where the stuckness is. It feels like once you get to the other side, like to know that I'm feeling lots of stuff moving in my throat, so I keep coughing. Like once we get there to the other side, like to know that it's okay to feel like different or like good or like positive or like accomplished or like I made it, I'm on the other side. Like it feels like there is a little bit of a disconnect of allowing yourself to celebrate like your ability to shift and know like I have made changes and I can continue to do that, instead of seeing all the time, instead of seeing where it's going right, like seeing the times that it went wrong. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, no, it totally does. Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, like right now in my life, there's been some, I guess, big decisions I've had to make, and I'm too busy thinking about everybody else,
Do you have
like
kids?
everybody else.
Do you have kids?
I do. I have one. He's the artist.
Oh, nice.
These wonderful drawings. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes, I mean, I'm not a mother, so I can't say from personal experience, but I know like when we take on this different role, it's easy to like only exist in that one role. And that could be a mother, that could be a, CEO, like whatever it is, where you're in charge of other people. Like knowing that you can still use some of that energy to like be in charge of yourself too.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
It's interesting, the birth comes
Yes.
so sometimes that's
Yes.
literal birth, but then it can
Yes.
also be like the birth of this new emotion, this new experience, this new creation. So like, what do I want the new path to look like if I had all the options in the world, like, and I could choose? That feels a little overwhelming. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
it does.
what do I want?
Yeah, it does. What do I want? What do people in my life want? It's very, yeah, spinning around in circles.
Yeah, it's just like it doesn't feel stagnant though. Like if I were to look at it like energy wise, it doesn't feel like, Groundhog Day, like every day is the same. Like
No.
it doesn't feel like that, like trapped type of feeling. It feels like you can see and feel the expansiveness, but it's like just finding the like stream for you to go down to like experience that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
it feels like, I don't know this random example, but like if you're going to paint your house and you go to the paint store and then there's like thousands and thousands of different
Swatches.
shades of white and you're like, which one is the right one?
Mhm.
That's kind of how it
Like
feels to
choose your own
me.
adventure book.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm gonna read a few chapters ahead to make sure I make the right decision. That's kind of how it feels.
Yeah, that's
Reading the ending before
I
the beginning.
I'm laughing because there's been times in my life where I've told family members, not that I want to hurry life up, but oh man, I wish I could fast forward this part to see how this turns out. But like it feels like magnified because it's your own freaking life. And it's almost like, I don't want to say a way to disassociate, but like you're just experiencing everything and dealing with stuff, and it's temporary, but in that moment it feels like forever.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, it's like everything slows down
Yeah.
for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this spirit guide, like, they're just, I think of, in my perspective, I think of the guides as like aspects of ourselves. So we can think of this guide as like a different version of you that can assist you in the version that you are now. So if it feels like, I wonder who this person is, they don't necessarily have to be a human, like
Okay.
ancestor or something. Sometimes our guides are ancestors or like a loved one that passed away, but then sometimes they are more of this like ethereal energy, like an angel or
Okay, that
something.
makes sense. Like a being rather than like, okay, this is such and such on the family tree.
Hmm. Yeah, you definitely have a lot of ancestors like around you. So that is like something you can definitely tap into if you would like to. But this feels more like they don't feel like an angel to me, but they feel like otherworldly,
That makes sense.
somehow connected to ice and like water. Water is also connected to our emotions. So I'm sure you've heard that a million times.
Yeah, as a
Um,
Scorpio, yeah.
yeah. So it's interesting too that what he brought up as one of the ways he comes through is through feelings and emotions. So sometimes it's like the way they show up can be another way for us to understand like how they help us. So maybe if you see a guide that's like a bird or like a winged angel or something, they might be able to help you with more of those like shifts in time, like quick stuff
That makes sense.
that happens when we fly.
No, that makes sense.
So he's like yeah, so I'm just going to ask if there's anything that if you so choose, anything that you could do to like further develop this connection. And like they're already doing the work, like they're already
Okay.
there assisting you. But if
Yeah.
it's interesting to like dive into more about him, I'm just going to ask if there's anything that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah. Am I supposed to ask or
Oh, I'm
sorry, you're
asking in
asking?
my head. Sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just wasn't sure if I needed to ask
No,
anything.
yeah. Um, yeah. So basically, what I'm doing is I'll ask, and then they give me answers back through like clear audience. So psychic hearing. So if anyone is listening back and they're like, "Wait, what's happening?"
Okay.
Um, well, a couple of things come up again, like they're already connected to you, so you don't have to do anything for them to help you. But if you want to learn more about them or understand how you can kind of develop that like speech with them, it's not words, so it's harder to, it's more like a feeling,
Mm.
telepathic connection. But he says two things. The first one is like through your voice. So, you can literally talk out loud to them as if they were there with you. Sometimes that feels weird. But he was showing me you like singing too, like singing, like even if it's not, I mean, I don't know if you're a singer or not, like, but just moving things through your throat and your vocal cords. So that could be speaking, but also singing, and just like they just show like making sounds like, like that kind of thing.
Sense. I mean, I really love music, so sometimes I'll like listen to music and sing, but yeah.
Yeah, even if it's just like in the car or whatever. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like a formal, like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
sing to you right now,
Right.
spirits.
Right.
But like they're explaining it to me like the feeling that you might receive when you hear like a song you love, or you get into that moment, like that is a positive, joyous feeling that they can connect through. So I wish I had a piece of paper. I do, but I'm just going to do a little drawing to help you maybe understand.
Okay.
This is the worst color combination though, because this is a pink pen on a pink piece of paper. So you might not even be able to
No,
see.
I'm
So
laughing because I'm the worst like that. Like, oh, I get the black piece of paper. I'm all like, oh, black pens.
so you see these little squiggles.
Yes.
It's like a wave. So I'm sure you've seen radio waves or like music waves where it's up and down. Like they show it as that, like this is a frequency that music will come through. And that's how we can hear the music. And when we sing, it's the same thing. We're creating these frequencies. So if we were to like see them around us, we would see like a little frequency coming out your throat as you sing or speak. So the spirit guide, he basically can come through. It's like a surfer, almost like riding those little frequency waves. So when you're putting out that energy, that wave of like joy, like silliness, fun, like presence, like they can recognize that because they see differently than we do, and they kind of can come through and like hop onto that frequency and be connected to you through that. So like when we experience these feelings, they can connect to us through the feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of hard to explain.
No, that totally makes sense.
So when you experience a feeling, like we were talking about earlier, like, oh, I just feel like emotions coming through me, that also might be an indicator that the energies are coming in.
Okay.
You also might experience human spirits, like ancestors, guides in that way. But the way they are much closer to you is how it feels, like physically, and also like our blood, like, literally, but like our genes. But it feels like
my laptop,
oh,
by the
sure.
way. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries. So they are like closer to you, adjacent in time. I don't know how to explain this in like human words, but how you might experience that in your life is like having physical sensations come up in your body, like cold or warm or like tingly. Does that ever happen for you?
Yes. And yeah, there's definitely been times I think where I've doubted that, like really thought, oh, maybe I'm just experiencing this, or maybe it's just like my nervous system.
Like I ate something weird or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've experienced though a couple of different times tingling, especially at like, I guess, pivotal life moments or just experiences.
Yeah, it feels like, well, I keep like having to clear my throat. It's so funny. Sorry to everyone
No, it's
listening to
okay.
this. um, it's just like feels like stuff is coming out. So that's good. We're moving stuff. We're moving stuff. Um, so when we work in the Akashic Records, just a side note, like we're looking and we're talking, we're having a conversation, but we're also moving energy. We're doing energy work. So I might have some sensations come up for me, but also the client might also have that experience.
Oh,
Or you
okay.
might feel like something shift after too. Like I kind of explain it as like a time release tablet or something. Like you take your little pill and then it works for you all day. Like
No, yeah,
it
that
it
makes sense.
continues to flow. So, you know, that's why I like to record these in general, just like for the clients. And then this, of course, is for the podcast. But because sometimes we might like be like, oh, that's interesting. And then if we listen back to it like a month or something later, we're like, oh, okay, I understand what the heck she was
Yeah,
talking
no, that
about.
totally makes sense. Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like takes a minute, but it's also an energy thing. But it was interesting. So before we started, I was just saying to you, like, do you do mediumship? And I was thinking that, and I know you said you did some of Sloane's classes, which I have also taken a class with Sloane, and
Yeah.
she does mediumship. So I was like, so I know you've done a little bit of work for yourself on that, but it definitely feels like that is present with your energy. Like, I don't know how to explain it other that than when I will see people who have this skill, it's almost like they have their crown chakra is like, I wouldn't say blasted open because that sounds intense, but it's like larger, and it's almost like there's a star on top of your head. So that was interesting when I look at your energy. It's like
That's very interesting.
there's like above your head is like a little star.
Mm.
And some people will call that the soul star, which is connected to like the Akashic Records, past life memory, soul memory. So it can be used for many different things, but it's also almost like, I would explain it like a portal between time, between worlds. So when we have this open, it's easier to communicate with spirits because they're not in our present reality. Like they can come in and they can connect with us, but they're not like physically there all the time. So this is almost like a translator. And yours is like this, it's like a green color, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
So it feels to me, so green is associated with the heart. So it feels to me like we were saying, very much communicating through the emotions and through the feelings. So like clairsentient, psychic feeling, like for example, they say like sometimes you might have a trouble, which I understand this from personal experience, but like differentiating between like I'm having anxiety, stress, like like mental, emotional
Mhm.
symptoms, and what is a spirit like sending me those feelings almost.
That makes sense.
Because sometimes it feels like because you are familiar with these emotions like anxiety or um, panic, stress, like those types of feelings, a spirit could utilize that feeling to communicate with you because they understand that you'll pay attention to it.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
They're like, oh, okay, if you're not listening to me,
Mhm.
so I'm
I'm
going to
just gonna
give
have
you
you feel
this feeling because when you feel like this, that's going to slow you down. That's going to have you, even if it's going to be painful. And it's not to say that every time we have experience anxiety, it's a spirit, but they're showing for you because you have this mediumship, you have this openness. That's a line of communication for them because they are like, yeah, they know that
listen.
you'll listen if it's a pain or like a struggling feeling.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
That, but they say like so over time, if you so choose to continue working on this, it will become easier to understand. But they also say if you want to ask them to come through in a different way, that might be helpful too. Like,
Gotcha.
if they were to give you like a memory, that might be helpful. So they say for you, a memory might be an easy way to access an understanding. So if, say, for example, a spirit comes forward and they're like, they want you to acknowledge their presence, like a great grandmother figure, you might not have known her in this lifetime, but you might be able to access like a memory from your mother's memory, is how they're
Yeah,
explaining.
no, that makes sense.
Like,
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah, like a flash, and not so much like a movie screen, like I'm seeing the details of their skirt, but like that it comes forward, like down over your eyes and then goes back to the back of your head.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Kind of like the way I've experienced some of that already is it's a really weird analogy, but you know those viewfinders, the viewfinder toy? It's like they have images
I
on
know
like a
exactly what you're
circle.
talking
Yeah.
about.
You literally like see the image and then it like turns to black and you see another image and turn to black. They have them like for movies and sequences and stuff like that. But yeah, when I've experienced stuff like that, it's also either been like film footage where it's like I'm sitting in the room, but it's like I never see me. It's like
Yeah,
weird. But I know it was an experience because then I've also referenced like photo albums after, and I'm like, wait, I like this is from this.
I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, that's how it feels, like it comes forward and then goes back.
Mhm.
That's so interesting. Yeah, and it feels like, is your family like, do they do any of this kind of stuff? Are they open about like
they're
spiritual
they're
mediumship?
yeah, they're open about like signs and stuff. Yeah, like my great grandmother on my dad's side, I guess was of the witchy sense, like all like herb and
Mm.
naturopath, all that. And my
So if you had like a memory, you could ask them, like, do you know what I'm talking about? Or they would be like, what the hell?
oh yeah, I'm not really sure. Well, I've asked before, and um I did get confirmation. Like there was this one time where I saw like my grandmother like boarding a train and she was like she couldn't have been more than like 12 or 13 years old, and cities came to mind and I wrote it down. Um of course, here I was doing just meditation for anxiety and stuff. It's like stuff
Yeah.
comes through. And she did confirm um certain cities like on said trip, but I mean I didn't say like,
I
oh,
got a vision.
this is what
Yeah.
came up.
Yeah.
But I mean, if anything, I guess I got my own self-validation where sometimes you can trip yourself up and be so in your head, like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I
Like
don't
what
think
you're sensing.
you don't need to get the confirmation, but sometimes it can be helpful
Mhm.
just to build up that trust more. Um, but yeah, they're showing like if you so choose to continue working on this skill, it can be really helpful for like your own personal healing, like you have been working on.
That
So
makes
it could
sense.
be like they're just explaining it like building I don't know how to explain it. It's like trusting your memories or trusting your own mind, your brain. Like, and I know sometimes when we have like negative emotions, it can, and I don't even want to say negative because, you know, all emotions are helpful in some way, but lower emotions or
Mhm.
whatever, stressful emotions, it can be hard to like trust when you are feeling good because again, like we mentioned earlier, it's kind of like it's just different. It's getting comfortable in a feeling that is different than what you're used to. And so they're saying they, as in your guides and stuff, can help assist in that like reinforcement is how they explain it to me, like a
That's
reinforcement
that's funny.
mechanism, like
Yeah.
support, but also like instead of going in the circle, it's like you're going down the path now, but then there's like little markers, like checks, like checkpoints where you're like, you get there and you're like, am I ready to move on to this next marker? And when you get distrustful or self of or like tripping up on yourself, asking them to help you move through that feeling.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like reminds me of a video game or something. There's like all
That's
these
funny,
little
like the
side
next
quests
level or this, and you got to get through this. And
to get to the next
yes.
part. Yeah, to unlock that. It feels like, I mean, your energy is very open. So that's good for like pulling spiritual information.
Mhm.
But in our day to day, that can be overwhelming. So continuing to work on, like we pulled the boundaries card, finding ways that you can work on like as we mentioned earlier, having boundaries that are open but still it's still a structure. They show me like a rose bush. So to me, the rose bush is all about protection. But it's still it's all the branches don't like they're not all together. They're like open like a weave almost.
Mhm.
So you can see through them, but then they have all the little thorns. What are they called?
Yeah,
Thorns.
thorns. Yeah.
So those will get rid
Yeah.
of the stuff we don't want, but it's still open for you to like peek through and see through. Like, and they also show too, like, they show random, but they show you like pulling stuff out of the dirt, like carrots or like turnips or like things that go in the ground. So like pulling those out to find the valuable minerals and content. So, you know, literally carrots are good for you, but
Yeah.
it's like more about what's underneath the ground. That's our ancestors, that's our roots, that's our inner child, that's the like deeper like parts of our subconscious mind. So being able to pull those out and get like the good rich like helpful stuff and but leave all the
Bad stuff.
bad stuff yeah in the dirt.
That makes sense.
So
That
it's like
totally makes sense.
pulling that stuff out. Yeah, it's like there's like love, joy, like beauty in that connection of connecting with our family and our ancestors. But of course, with any family, there's pain, there's trauma, there's whatever. So it's like finding where you can help mend that energy, but also not taking on, thousands and thousands of years of other people's shit.
Yeah.
Not to mention,
that's
like,
funny
like our parents or people that are still alive.
Yeah. That's funny. And it's not like obviously funny, like laughing. It's just like, yeah, like to learn how to like work through some things versus just being like, here I am, an open portal. Like, I gotta try and do healing for everyone else.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like once we open the door, there's all these people on the other side, like, hey, oh my gosh, like I've been waiting thousands of years for you. And that's amazing and beautiful, but it's the boundaries. It's like, okay, today I'm going to do my meditation, and this is a time where that they can connect with me. Or when I go out in nature, this is a time they can connect with me, and not like I'm just open all the time and things are coming in and out of my body and my energy. And that can be a little bit exhausting.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah. When I first started doing like public readings, my mentor told me like to create office hours.
Oh yeah.
That's just like an intention
Yeah.
of like, okay, like me, literally, I'm going to have this hours open where people can get readings, but it's also like spirits, energies, so that I'm not just open all the time, because that again can be exhausting. But it's also like, for you, you're very, like we said, the clairsentient, the psychic feeling that can be physical and emotional, but it's almost like the spirit comes in and they're like moving all around in your body. Which can be helpful if we're wanting to do that work for them, but without the like explicit like permission or boundaries. Like it's almost like they're just I don't want to say like running off your energy, because that sounds like a scary possession type of thing. That's not
Right.
what I mean. But like utilizing your frequency for their self. And some people might be doing this just unconsciously. Like the spirits do it, but also people in your life.
Nope, that makes sense. That makes sense, where it's like sometimes you can feel like, wow, feeling really run down or drained, or kind of like what you said, separating my own shit versus someone else's.
Yeah, and it's really hard to do that. So whatever level that you're going to start working on is great. It takes time. But I think it's like noticing the time. Okay, this is your assignment.
Okay.
Noticing the times when you don't feel that, when you feel like you're in your field, you're in your own energy, like, and just acknowledging like, what am I doing when I'm in that feeling? And then trying to bring more of that, whatever that is, into your weeks. Doesn't have to be every day, but like, say for example, if you're in your meditation, that might be helpful, but it's also opening you up. So maybe there's a different way that you can work on releasing some of your own internal feelings. That is just a different structure, is how I'm seeing it. Like,
makes sense.
The way you're doing your meditation, they're like sitting there. It's like a sitting with the, what is it called? Sitting in the power.
Yes.
Mediumship thing. Which is great. But then it's kind of like, hey, I'm here, like, come connect with me. So maybe there's like some kind of movement or like a different type of meditation that could be just for you. And then that is more for when you're wanting to connect.
That makes sense.
So just kind of like seeing how that unfolds. I don't know. Do you ever do breath work?
I mean, honestly, aside from like maybe in guided meditations, that's about it. Or in times of like extreme stress, I've used breath work.
Yeah. That could be something that could be fun to explore a little bit. I mean, there's so many videos like on YouTube or whatever. But also like stretching, moving, something where you're moving, and the breath can be a way to move, but something where you're able to get out of the mind and into the body.
That makes sense.
So it doesn't have to be like, I'm gonna go run, like,
no,
but
yeah,
like
I know.
something where you're
even going in nature and like walking and moving and actual movement versus just kind of sitting, meditating, and then more sitting.
yeah, something where you're like, it could be just walking too.
Right.
But just like, it's almost inviting in your higher self, like to be with you and having them kind of show you what will be appropriate. So if you want to try that.
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Yeah, there's definite like the higher self too. That's another thing that you can connect with and deepen this connection with. There, you know, it's literally you, but she feels like, I don't know how to explain it other than like bendy. Like she feels like she's made out of gum.
That's funny.
Like she can transform energies, which you can do that too. But she's doing it in a slightly different way than you, where it feels like she's not it's not as tiresome. So maybe she's gonna help you with that.
Okay.
But she feels like tacky, like not sticky, but like silly
taffy,
putty, like
yes,
taffy, like like the
makes sense.
those videos of the guys making candy. I don't know.
Yeah, like the oddly satisfied.
Yeah,
like
it feels like she is doing that with your energy and like showing you how to do that, like stretch yourself out where you're not stretched thin, you're just expanded.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Whereas like, stretch.
It feels like she lives in your like not the crown, more third eye, throat, like vision and like voice. But it's not like, she doesn't feel like, because sometimes when I see people's higher self, it's like them in another dimension. Like this feels like you in this lifetime, but just like a little bit older, maybe a few years from now or something. So it feels like this version is very much like present in your body. So it's just about like having her come into this version of you so that you can understand how to move and shift energy more efficiently, if that makes sense. I know it's a little
that makes sense. I've never really sat here and thought about even a higher self and connecting to that. So that's like what I'm thinking about. I'm like, it's just very interesting to again like even think about that,
because she's like in here. So I see that as the other guy, your ice guy, helping you open this up so that when it's time, the higher self it's kind of like a merging type of thing of like
Mm-hmm.
you are her and she's you, but just like a few steps from now. So she is already here, but she's there too. So it's hard to kind of think about, but
Parallel, which is
well,
another thing.
everything is happening at once. So it gets very confusing when we start like trying to process that in our mind. But like,
yeah.
it's like you were saying earlier, like wanting to fast forward. So if you
Mhm.
did fast forward, like this is you.
Mhm.
5 years, 10 years, something like that. Like you just look a little older, but you still like human and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Because sometimes it will be like, yeah, like an angel version of us or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But there's, I mean, there's a lot of different versions of you, but this is the one that wants to assist you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any, so we have a few minutes left. So do you have any specific questions or just anything you're curious about?
Um, Not really. I guess I was just trying to think. I guess, and I know time is like one of those things where it's like, I don't know, it's not really set, but I
Oh, like
guess,
future?
yeah, I guess I was trying to think like when does the circle going around in a circle stop? But then,
Well, I was just gonna say when you choose to make it
yes,
stop.
I was just about to say that. I was gonna say she's probably gonna say too.
But it's well, if it's with the future, there's many different timelines. And it's really about our personal decisions. So, like a psychic could tell you, okay, in 5 years, you're going to
Of
get
course.
married or
Yeah,
whatever. And maybe that won't happen. Maybe that will. It really just depends on the doorways that you walk through. And of course, if the reader is accurate,
of course.
we're not always, there's no guarantee that we're 100% accurate.
Of course.
But for you, it feels like, so how do I explain? Okay, so they show me like a pit, like a fire pit. And they say like there are some aspects of yourself that want to be like burned away. Like, so if you want to, you can do something literal, like write down, I'm ready to let this thing go and like literally burn it, or just like having that intention in your mind. So there are like, it's not necessarily flaws, like there's nothing wrong with you, like it's just like parts of you that served you at one time that are just not helping anymore. So it's not like you did anything wrong. We just want to make sure everyone knows that we're all perfect in every moment. But there's aspects of you that if you so choose to release them, that's going to help you move more quickly out of that circle. But eventually you're going to get there no matter what, because that's what the timeline is. So eventually you're going to get there no matter what. You're going to make the next mark. You're going to move forward, but your guides are there to support you in making those decisions more quickly. But it's really you and your higher self that's going to be doing the work, is going to be understanding like, what do I want to do? Like, what if I had all the choices, like we said earlier, what choice would I make? So they're saying like for you, what might be helpful is like actualizing that. So doing something literal might be helpful. So that could be like, they're showing me like photographs, like old, like shit in the garage type of stuff,
Oh,
like
that's funny.
boxes. I don't know if that is
So,
literal.
well, yeah, that's funny. Like, I mean, that could be literal or yeah, yeah, like photo albums or yeah. And
They're
I
saying like an organization, like project type of thing could be helpful. Um, of course, literally like, oh, when we have clean house, it makes life easier. But it looks like there's some stuff in there that's like maybe a little painful, that you don't need to actually have in your house.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I have like old pictures of people that aren't really relevant in my life anymore.
It feels like books or like photo albums, journals, like that kind of thing, old paperwork.
mhm.
And it might even be like some things just want to be organized so that this was whatever year and you have a box
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff in
No,
it,
that
so
makes
that if you
sense.
so choose to like reminisce one day, you're like, oh, this is where I go to look at that shit.
Yeah.
But then there also it feels like there's stuff in there that is just like old bills, medical bills, like I don't know if they're medical, but like bills that you don't need, like might have, they're from a long time ago. Something, it could be paperwork too from like school or something. It just feels like
Yeah.
old
I actually
papers.
went through in the past, wow, in the past year. Um, yeah, in the past year, I kind of went through some old school
Oh,
stuff,
good.
like,
Oh,
and
good.
it
So
like
you're already on it.
self-worth stuff, like I'm more than a grade, I'm more than like an achievement, and really kind of going through that stuff. So I've done a lot of that.
Oh, good. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like that might be even just like a catalyst
Mhm.
as as we have like a tangible thing we're working through, it can help some of the energy things process too. And they're saying too, like, um, it feels like you have been working already on this. So correct me if I'm wrong, but like inner child, inner teenager stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
A lot of that stuff. Yeah.
It feel
Also,
how
yeah,
it feels like more a little bit older, like early 20s
that makes sense. Yeah.
stuff that wants to be, we don't want to examine it forever because like that's exhausting and
Yeah.
unnecessary, but just like seeing if you can pull forward any memories that are taking up space in your mind. They explain it to me like we can hold that memory, like we can have a photograph,
Mhm.
but we can also have a digital iCloud and
Mhm.
everything's there and we don't really think about it until we look through it.
Mhm.
It's kind of like that's what's going on in our subconscious mind. There's stuff that we don't even think about, but it's still taking up space. So it's kind of like organizing that like etheric
Mhm.
memory
That makes
space.
sense.
So like you don't need to have like the tangible photograph, like you don't have to throw away like nice photos, like don't do that.
Right.
But like you don't need to hold the pain of the memory for it to still have the memory.
Mhm. Makes
Like
sense.
if something was painful, we don't need to erase it like it never happened, because it can be like dissociating or also just like pushing stuff down. Like that's not necessarily what we want, but it's like we don't need to hold the physical manifestation of that pain in our body. Does
That
that make
that
sense?
makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Yeah, I've worked a lot on stuff kind of like that where maybe at times you didn't have the space to process things until, well, like it is stored in your body and you're thinking to yourself, okay, how do I guess kind of like cut the strings attached to this.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's like thinking of it as like documentation, like, oh, I have this. And if I ever need to think about it again, it's right here
Yeah.
in my brain. But I don't need to like hold it on my back. Like I'm just like
Right.
around.
Right.
Yeah. So that's just, it's like, that's just something to think about.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
And like with any type of spiritual healing or just personal development, like there's no rush. Everything's going to happen as it needs to. I mean, even with this session, we like had to reschedule multiple times, and that's all good because it's supposed to happen when it's supposed to happen. And so we don't need to rush to be like, let me fucking get rid of all my baggage today. Like, but it's like just knowing, okay, the more that I dive into these things, the more that I can like move forward in my day to day, just like living life. And also like find like pockets of like joy, like silliness, like just being human. Like we don't need to be always diving and excavating into our pain. Like finding ways where we can just watch the show, like just laugh, like play with your kid, like just these like human moments too. And the spirits and our energies, they're always present with us. So even if we're just like fucking off and sitting on the couch, like they're still assisting us. So we don't have to like try so hard. But when we do create the boundaries and the space, that can be helpful, because it's like, okay, today is a day where I'm just being human, and then tomorrow we can work on this. But it doesn't have to be like every day I have to do 1,000 meditations or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
Anything else? Any other questions before we close out?
No, I can't think
about.
Yes, a lot to think about.
Yes. So basically, I mean, just to sum it up, like your energy is very open. So that's great. It's just finding helpful ways to close down certain aspects of it when you're not wanting to be like processing for everyone.
No, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And then just asking this ice guy to come and hang out with you. Then you have your elastic higher self. But yeah, you have a lot of spirits present with you. And I think that is, I mean, I think a lot of that is the openness and what I would just explain as like mediumship. So it's just a natural thing that you can do. You don't necessarily have to do readings for other people to be a medium. But that's something that you're already doing. So if you want to continue working on it for yourself, like you can just see how things evolve over time. And they're also talking about like salt, like stuff, salt, minerals.
I've been working on increasing electrolytes.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good.
And baths for like
self-care. Epsom salt is great for like clearing your energy, like but it's also good for your muscles and all that. But yeah, it felt to me like trace minerals, so electrolytes would be great. It's so interesting, that comes up with a lot of people, and I really feel like it has to, like a lot of people who are spiritually open, I really feel like it has to do with the way our energy releases, where we're just like sweating
Oh, that
or
makes sense.
whatever, like
That makes
out
sense.
our mineral content. But electrolytes is going to be, that's like really great because it's keeping your energy field like more solid,
Okay. Yeah.
but it's also like upping the hydration in our body. They're saying like paying attention to like the tongue, lips, like just noticing if when you are dehydrated, if you got like cracks or like whatever. um Not necessarily like you need to change anything, but just kind of paying attention to that. But seeing how you can add more like minerals.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I've
That's
also been
interesting. This
trying to
keeps
work
coming
on
up. So it's,
thyroid, which
I
is like
probably need them too
to
because this has
solve
come up in multiple
minerals.
readings.
Yes. And balance. So yeah, that
Yeah. Oh, really? That's interesting. And the thyroid is very, I mean, it's like right in that area, very much
yeah.
connected to the throat. So
Yes.
it can also be like the literal physical body. Um, and yeah, it was like the tongue, the lips, and like
Mm,
skin, like barriers, and that's boundaries too.
that's
So like that's
interesting.
the edges of our, keeps all our bones and everything in there, you know.
Mhm.
um so that's just like another way to think about boundaries, like you know, you can do your skincare and think about that, or
Mhm.
you know, get a massage, think about
Yeah, no,
that.
that makes a lot of sense.
But it's like the question is just to ask yourself is like, where do I begin and where does other people begin, or where does spirit begin? So to know like what are my edges, like what is me and what is you.
Gotcha. Does that get
Something to
easier
think
over
about.
time, or is it
I
like,
think so.
okay? No, I just ask because sometimes, you can walk into a room and I'm like, oh, great. Like, I know who's got a bad mood in here, in here. And then it's like you try and shut down that energy, and then it's like, oh, this energy will not go away. And I trying hard to like detach, but when you're in it, you're in it.
I think there's a couple things, like it does get easier with practice, so finding a way to shield yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't know if Sloan talked to you about that in her class, but it's like just creating like an energy shield for you. So that could be like through visualization, like imagining yourself surrounded by like a bubble. I
Mm.
like to think of like a spiky bubble
Oh yeah.
personally. Um,
That's funny.
Sometimes I'll tell people to imagine they're like jumping into like an astronaut suit or something and like
Okay.
all the way up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um, but it could also be like if you're putting on lotion, like imagine you're like sealing yourself off to
Mm.
the world. You could also I love this stuff, rose water.
Oh, okay. I actually have
Um
some of that.
it's my favorite, and you just
Yeah.
like spritz it around you. It clears your energy field. But it's also protective, like we were talking about with the roses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Um,
exactly what I was just thinking of when you were
like
talking about the jumps.
incense,
I thought
like
of the
things
rose
like
bush and
that.
thorns.
Mm. Um, but like it, or even just like speaking like a little prayer or an intention to yourself, that could be helpful. Um, of like, I'm going out. Will also veil, like I wear beanies all the time, or
Mm-hmm.
like I put a scarf on my head or whatever,
Mm.
like a head, what are they called? A bandana.
Yeah.
Because when your crown is so open, it's just like a way to like have a physical reminder for yourself that like I'm closing myself down.
Yeah, that's
Just
funny because I literally wear hats year round, and my family, they just like accept it. And then friends have been like, it's like, I don't know, 90 degrees outside and you're like wearing your beanie.
it's
And
like
it's
maybe
funny
it's
that
an intuitive way that you're already doing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny.
Yeah, or hoods, you know, like on your
Or
sweatshirt.
hoodie. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's funny.
So some people call that veiling. So you could
Mm.
like you could like do a whole magical like intention setting,
Mhm.
but also just like knowing to yourself like I'm going out and this is my way of like, shielding myself. Um, Jewelry can also be effective for that. Like just knowing, okay, every time I put on this ring, this is like, I'm either the opposite. Like every time I put on this ring, I'm open to communicating with the spirits. When I have the ring off, then I'm not. Like physical signifiers can be helpful. But real quick, the other thing that they said when you were talking about going into the room, they said, when you're comfortable, there's no like time
Okay.
pressure. If you want to share some of those things that you're feeling, that might help you process it. So that could be writing it down until you're ready to like say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. That might be helpful just to get it out of you and to acknowledge it. Like, because sometimes it might be an energy, like someone else's energy that you're picking up. And then sometimes it might be a spirit, like, so if it is a spirit, just acknowledging it, oftentimes that's enough for them to kind of like back off. And then as far as like someone else's energy, that is more about the boundaries, like so that they're not seeping into you.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Amazing. Well, we're just going to do our little closing prayer.
Okay.
So you can just close your eyes. And we give thanks to any guides or spirits that came forward for Toria today. We thank the record keepers for all their wisdom, healing, and information given during this reading. And may the healing and wisdom for Victoria received here today continue to help for as long as is needed. In gratitude to the Akashic Records. So be it, so it is. And the records are now closed. Just calling all your energy back to your body. Any energy we moved or shifted today, we ask it to be released into the light or into the earth to be recycled. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Just close out.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for doing this for the
Yes.
podcast. I'm excited for people to listen back.
Totally excited too. Awesome. Well, have a great Thursday.
Thank you very much. And if you have questions or anything comes up, you can always email me or send me a message.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.